They say fate doesn't make mistakes, it just waits for the right moment. For Victoria Chen, that moment came wrapped in chaos, shattered dishes, and the humiliating certainty that she was about to lose her job. The Grand Sterling restaurant glowed that night like a palace of crystal and light, where laughter belonged to the wealthy and smiles were part of the service. Victoria had learned to survive in this world of polished silver and whispered secrets, where she served dreams she couldn't afford and wore grace like armor. But fate has a strange sense of humor. One spilled tray, one heartbeat between falling and being caught, and suddenly, everything she thought she knew about life, love, and class unraveled. Across the room sat a man named Marcus Hamilton, a name that opened doors and closed hearts. A man who had everything except connection. A man who had spent years surrounded by people yet haunted by silence. He came to dine alone, but he didn't leave that way. This is not a story about a billionaire rescuing a waitress. It's a story about two lonely souls, one who had forgotten what it meant to feel, and another who refused to stop believing that kindness still mattered. It began with an empty chair. It became a partnership that changed lives, and somewhere between spilled wine and whispered dreams, two worlds collided, not to destroy each other, but to build something beautiful, because sometimes, love doesn't walk in with roses and promises. Sometimes, it catches you mid-fall, and teaches you how to fly. Victoria Chen had been a server at the Grand Sterling for 3 years. At 24, she moved through the elegant dining room with quiet confidence, her blonde hair tied neatly, her mint green apron pressed to perfection. Every table, every regular, every unspoken rule of this glittering world, she knew them all. The Grand Sterling wasn't just a restaurant, it was a stage where the city's elite came to perform their version of perfection. Crystal chandeliers dripped light like melted gold, the air hummed with soft jazz, and every plate carried not just food, but pride. Victoria had learned long ago to be invisible here. To serve without being seen. To smile when her feet ached and her heart felt heavier than the trays she carried. But tonight, someone, broke the rhythm. At table 12 sat a man alone. Marcus Hamilton. Mid-30s, sharply dressed, confident posture, but there was something brittle behind his poise. He checked his watch every few minutes, eyes flicking toward the empty chair across from him. A bottle of wine worth $600 sat unopened, untouched. Victoria had seen this before, the quiet heartbreak of someone stood up. But what struck her wasn't pity. It was the loneliness in his eyes. The kind that money couldn't disguise. When she offered to refill his water, his "no, thank you" came curt, automatic, defense masquerading as dignity. His phone buzzed, and for an instant, she saw the truth in his face. Pain. Then anger. Then the mask sliding back into place. She turned away, giving him privacy, but her gaze lingered. He looked like a man surrounded by everything except peace. An hour later, while rushing through the dining room, balancing a tray of appetizers, someone bumped into her. Time slowed, the tray flew, glasses spun in midair, and just when she thought she'd crash to the floor, strong hands caught her. She looked up, straight into Marcus Hamilton's eyes. "Careful," he said, voice calm but firm. The appetizers were everywhere. Guests stared. Her manager's face darkened as he approached. "Victoria. My office. Now." It wasn't her fault, Marcus interjected, tone sharp enough to slice through tension. Someone shoved past her. "I saw it." Recognition flickered in the manager's eyes. The man before him was a Hamilton. Power in a tailored suit. The anger drained instantly. "Of course, Mr. Hamilton. My apologies for the disruption." "There's nothing to apologize for," Marcus said. "Accidents happen. But humiliation shouldn't." Victoria stood frozen. No one had ever stood up for her like that. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't deserve to be punished for trying," he said simply. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting second, two strangers shared something rare, understanding. A few minutes later, Marcus asked, "What time do you get off work?" 11, she said carefully. He gestured toward the empty chair. "Then maybe you could join me." "Not as my server. As my guest." She hesitated. "That's not allowed." "Maybe just this once, it should be." Her heart warred with reason. But loneliness speaks a language the heart understands too well. Okay, she said finally. 2 hours crawled by. When Victoria clocked out, she changed into a simple navy dress, hands trembling. She'd never felt so unsure of herself, but when she approached, Marcus smiled, a real smile, soft and unguarded. You came, he said. I almost didn't. I'm glad you did. He poured her a glass of the untouched wine. To unexpected turns of fate. They talked for hours, about dreams, regrets, exhaustion. Victoria spoke of her late father, of debt and determination, of wanting to build a cafe where everyone felt they belonged. Marcus listened, not politely, but deeply. Then he told her about inheriting a company at 28, about endless boardrooms and empty penthouses. I've built everything except a life, he admitted. Maybe you just need to remember what makes life worth building, she said softly. For the first time in years, Marcus laughed, not the polished kind, but the genuine, human kind. When the restaurant emptied, he said, tomorrow night, I have a charity gala. Come with me. A gala? She blinked. It's for education programs, something you care about. And maybe it'll remind me why I should care too. She should have said no. But his sincerity disarmed her. All right, she said. The next night, a car arrived for her. Inside, a dress. Elegant, modest, perfect. At the gala, Marcus looked different, lighter somehow. And with Victoria by his side, he wasn't the distant tycoon everyone knew. He listened, laughed, and connected. You're a natural, he whispered. Half the people here want to know who you are. I'm just being myself. That's exactly why they notice. Weeks turned into months. They met for coffee before her classes, shared lunches between his meetings, took evening walks. When the world grew quiet, Marcus began attending her business lectures, sitting quietly in the back. Victoria started advising his company, introducing ideas that focused on community and inclusion. Under her influence, Hamilton Enterprises shifted, from building towers to building lives, and somewhere between those long talks and shared silences, they fell in love. Quietly. Steadily. One evening, they returned to the Grand Sterling. Marcus had reserved table 12. Do you remember? He asked. How could I forget? He smiled. That was the night everything changed. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I know we come from different worlds, he said, voice trembling slightly. But you showed me that connection is worth more than power. That love isn't about saving someone, it's about seeing them. Will you marry me, Victoria? Her eyes glistened. She thought of that night, the fall, the rescue, the empty chair that started it all. Yes, she whispered. 6 months later, they married quietly. Victoria finished her degree and became a partner in Hamilton Enterprises, leading the Community Development Division. Together, they built homes, opened scholarships, and helped people like her father, and every year, on their anniversary, they returned to table 12, a symbol of how an accident became destiny. When people asked how they met, Marcus would smile and say, she fell into my life. And Victoria would add, and he taught me that sometimes, falling is how we learn to fly.